Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new AMD Ryzen 8000 series powered mini PC from a company known as InnoByte. Now this is actually the first mini PC that I've seen from them, and they are planning either an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter for this little machine, but right now it's known as the InnoByte 8845HS Mini. So we've got a full carbon fiber chassis here, and I've seen another mini PC hit the market with a very similar design here. But this is real carbon fiber. It's not a sticker over plastic. There's also kind of a newer cooler system that they have here for this Ryzen 7 8845HS. And I guess that's going to be the big seller for this mini here from InnoByte. And in this video, we've got a lot to test with this mini PC. But before we get into it, I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by Urcdkeys. I've actually been using this site for a couple years now. They do offer Steam keys, Origin, Uplay. They even offer Microsoft applications like Office. But the main reason that I use Urcdkeys is for their Windows keys. Right now, their Windows 10 Pro OEM key is $19.84, but if you use code ETA at checkout, you can get 25% off. And another great thing about buying from here is they do accept PayPal. I just did this build here. I need to activate Windows. I'm going to head over to my updates and security. We're going to go to activation. As you can see, I've got Windows 10 Pro, but it's not activated. So I'm going to change product key. I'm going to paste it in here, choose next, choose activate, and Windows is now activated. We're ready to go. They'll email your code once your payment is processed, and that's basically it. If you're interested in picking up cheap Windows 10 keys for your new PC builds, I'll leave a link in the description. But just taking a look at the overall unit itself, I do like the design. I'm a big fan of carbon fiber, and having kind of that industrial look is really nice. Couple USB ports up front, ton of ventilation, and the CPU on this is facing the top, so all of the air will be pulled in from the top area. And recently I've seen a lot of these mini PC manufacturers kind of putting everything on the bottom, and with the smaller feet on it, it's just hard to get enough air up and into the unit. So I'm glad to see we've got something like this just to pull everything in from the top. And basically the only other thing they sent over inside of the box was a 120 watt power supply, and it is using a barrel jack instead of USB Type-C. Taking a look at the I/O, even though the USB ports up front here are black, these are USB 3.2, plus we've got that 3.5mm audio jack and our power button. Not much at all going on around each side, but we do have that ventilation to allow air to kind of escape once it's drawn in from the top. And around back, we've got our power input, a single 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, one USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, and one USB 2.0 port. So it was a bit confusing kind of looking at everything. We've got those black ports up front, but those are USB 3.2 also. We've also got dual full-size HDMI, and you can see we've got two USB Type-C ports. One of these is USB 4 running at a 40 gig protocol. The other one is USB 3.2, so it does support video out. In total, we can do 4 displays on this unit, utilizing both of those USB ports and both of the HDMI ports back here. The 8845HS Mini should be going up for sale in the next month or so, at least that's what I'm told. Like I mentioned, they will be doing either Indiegogo or Kickstarter. I'll keep everybody updated in the description down below and my community section. But when it comes to the overall specs here, for the APU, obviously we've got that AMD Ryzen 7 8845HS. 8 cores, 16 threads. We've got a base clock of 3.8 gigahertz and a boost up to 5.1. We've also got that Radeon 780M iGPU based on RDNA 3. This clocks up to 2700 megahertz. And since we've got the new Ryzen 8000 series, one of their biggest focuses was AI. So we have that upgraded AMD Ryzen AI, and the NPU in the 8845HS can do up to 16 TOPS of AI performance. But total package performance, when you include that NPU, CPU, and iGPU, is up to 38 TOPS. This mini PC supports up to 64 gigabytes of DDR5, so it's SODIMM running in dual channel, up to 5600 megahertz. Would have loved to see some faster RAM here, but unfortunately we've got SODIMM. We can add one M.2 2280 NVMe SSD, and this is PCIe 4.0. It's got Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, and I'm going to be running Windows 11 Pro on this machine. Taking a look through the BIOS, right now this little PC is unlocked. We can basically change everything, but I left it the way they sent it to me. Now we can go back and up the TDP from there, or we could use a third-party app, but I wanted to see how this thing performed right now. And as you can see, we've got that Ryzen 7 8845HS. 32 gigs of DDR5 at 5600. Remember, this is in dual channel. And we've got that Radeon 780M iGPU. From the BIOS, it already had 3 gigs dedicated, but we can go up to 16 here. We've got 32 gigs to work with. It's going to allocate it automatically. Checking out the base TDP using CPU-Z and core temp here. We see this jumps up to 50 watts. Now that's just on the CPU side. If I leave this going and we run something like, let's say, Furmark, looks like we're at about 68 to 69 watts here. CPU temperature 79 right now, but this is more of an extreme test. We're putting a 99% load on the iGPU, and that CPU is maxed out with CPU-Z in the background. See, we're still running that. So around 68 watts, not too bad. And since we are stressing out that CPU, it's not sending everything to the GPU. As soon as I turn it off, you can see we jump up to 2700 megahertz. Temps go way down. It's just kind of an extreme test I like to run, just to make sure we're getting the wattage we need to the iGPU and that CPU at the same time. The first thing I always do with these mini PCs is run some benchmarks, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Geekbench 6, single core 2459, multi 13070. Really great scores for a mobile chip, but then again, we do have that wattage that is able to go up to 70 watts, basically 50 over on the CPU with a little extra for that GPU. Checking out some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark. Here we have Night Raid with the 27,724. Kind of seeing the same kind of scores here out of the 7840U with the same kind of wattage. Firestrike, 7,393. And the final one here is Time Spy. On the first run, we got a 3,103. Definitely not the highest score that I've seen out of these 780M iGPUs, but you got to keep in mind, we've only got 5600 megahertz RAM here, and this is looking good for an iGPU. But now it's time to check out some real-world gaming on this machine, and first up we've got Helldivers 2, and I'll tell you, the developers have put out some patches. I've seen a performance increase on all GPUs across the board. This is looking really good. We're at 1080p low with FSR set to balanced, and there's really no way around it. We do need FSR here if we want to take that resolution up to 1080p, but we got an average of 81 FPS, which on an iGPU, I think is really great performance. Borderlands 3 1080p, low settings, and I probably should have took this up to medium settings. Now we do get some hiccups every once in a while, and I think it's just shaders caching, but by the end, we had an average of 78 FPS. With Palworld, we still need to take this down to 900p low in order to get over 60, and even then, in some cases, with lots of particle effects on screen, you will see it dip down below. Like right here, there you go. Yeah, just every once in a while, this little iGPU and Palworld don't meet up correctly, and it just kind of falls right on its face. I also wanted to test out Red Dead Redemption 2. We're at 1080 low with FSR set to balanced, and we probably should take FSR to performance with this if we want to keep it at 1080p. But with these settings here at the end of the benchmark, we had a minimum of 24, so yeah, real big hiccup there. Maximum of 111 and an average of 61 FPS on the 8845HS. I keep going back to the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark just to see if we can get a little more out of this, and unfortunately at 1080 these iGPUs really struggle because we only had an average of 63 and I am at 80% resolution scale. Playing fighting games on these RDNA 3 iGPUs is great. Here we have Mortal Kombat 1, 1080p, low, FSR set to balance. We're at a constant 60, and we could kind of tweak and tune these settings here, make it look just a little better. Probably take most of the settings up to medium with this little setup here. And finally, we've got Cyberpunk 2077 1080p low with FSR set to performance. And usually when I test this, I go into the settings at low and then turn everything as low as possible. We're actually just using the preset low here on the 8845HS, and it's not doing bad. By the end, we had an average of 74 FPS. Another thing I always like to measure while I'm doing all of my tests on these mini PCs is just total system power consumption from the wall. So I use a kilowatt meter while running all of my benchmarks and testing out games, and at idle, this is pulling around 9 watts. Viewing some 4K video playback from YouTube jumps up to 13 watts. Average gaming, you can see we're up to 67 the way it's set up right now in the BIOS, and the maximum I could get this to pull in an extreme test was 82 watts. So yeah, the 8845HS can definitely pull some power, but it's an HS processor for a reason. Out of the box, these do run at a higher TDP than their U models. This is meant for higher performance. So this isn't the first Ryzen 8000 series mini PC that we've seen or tested on the channel, and I gotta say, when it comes to gaming, putting the 8845HS up against the older 7940HS, there's not much of a difference at all. Now RAM is really going to factor in, TDP is also, but most of the HS series mini PCs can run up to around 65 watts, so you're not going to see a massive jump in gaming performance. I personally wouldn't run out and upgrade from a Ryzen 7000 when it comes to gaming, but if you've got the choice between the two and the price isn't that far off, I would definitely go with the newer model, especially with that more powerful NPU, if you're looking to get any kind of AI tasks done with a mini PC like this. But that's going to wrap it up for this first look video. Like I mentioned, this will be launching in the next month or so on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I will leave some links down below as soon as they're available to me, and definitely keep an eye on my community section because as soon as they send the information over to me, I'm going to update everything over here. If you've got any questions or you want to see anything else running on this 8845HS powered mini PC, let me know in the comments. And like always, thanks for watching.